3 million years ago, when the first bands of early humans were just beginning to roam the Earth, our protagonist was among them. At first glance, he looked like any other Australopithecus, primitive, upright, and hairy in all the wrong places. But something about him was off, different. Apart from his strange obsession with hunting anything that moved, he believed he was just like everyone else. But he soon realized something was seriously wrong. While those around him aged, weakened, and eventually died, he didn't. He just wouldn't die, no matter what happened. Time marched on, and he remained the same. Well, not exactly the same. While years left no visible marks on him, his body continued to evolve. He grew larger, stronger, and impossibly powerful. In that endless span of time, there were only 3 things that gave him a reason to wake up every morning: hunting, fighting, and destroying anything worth his time. You know, totally normal hobbies. Cursed with eternal life and the unbearable loneliness that came with it, he lived this way for nearly 3 million years. People began to call him the god of Earth, Mu. He didn't just become strong, he became unstoppable. But that's when things got boring. Like, one day, out of pure frustration, Mu stomped his foot. Not just a regular stomp, a wake up the entire realm stomp. The ground shook, the divine realm trembled, and every god, angel, and demonic creature panicked like squirrels during a thunderstorm. Of course, this wasn't Mu's first tantrum. Some gods had grown really tired of his daily earthquakes. One of them was Lucifer, ranked number 2 in the divine realm. He was basically the assistant manager of godhood, and just like every assistant manager, he hated being left in charge. Mu, unbothered by the celestial chaos, sighed and muttered the words that had haunted him for centuries. Being too strong is a problem too. That's when it hit him. An idea so brilliant it almost made him feel alive again. If his strength was the problem, maybe the solution was to become weak. Suddenly, Mu stood up and shouted, "Dragonling!" Within seconds, a massive dragon descended from the sky, landing with a boom that echoed across realms. The dragon, at least 5 times the size of Mu's throne, looked like it was not in the mood. Probably just got comfy watching God flicks. This massive creature was none other than Dragonling, Mu's top assistant. With glowing eyes and a serious case of "not again," he growled, "Why have I been summoned?" Mu, casually walking away, replied without looking back, "Take care of things while I'm gone." Dragonling blinked. Wait, what? Before Mu could take another step, the dragon panicked and cast a powerful spell, Binding of the Absolute. Chains shot out, locking Mu in place. Bad move. With just one irritated side glance, Mu made the dragon immediately regret his entire life. The beast's bravado evaporated. He stammered, I didn't mean to offend you, my lord, but you should have at least said something. We've got a gods meeting coming up." Mu didn't care. He had skipped meetings for centuries. What was one more? He resumed walking, dragging the dragon, chains and all, like a toddler pulling a teddy bear. Realizing brute force wouldn't work, Dragonling tried emotional manipulation instead. "But if you don't show up, I'll be the one taking the blame from the other gods." Mu turned, snapped the chains with 0 effort, and yelled, "Fine! Fight me instead." Dragonling immediately folded. "On second thought, have a safe trip, my lord." Mu smirked and turned toward a small, floating replica of Earth. He reached out, touching its surface. As he did, he began listening in on messages being sent by Earthlings to the gods. Most were boring or absurd. One guy just wanted to be taller. But then one message stood out. Someone was questioning his very existence. Perfect. That's the guy. For the first time in centuries, Mu felt excited. He had found the perfect vessel. He didn't explain anything to Dragonling, Sigma move. He simply said, "Take care of the place while I'm gone." Dragonling was horrified. Mu was only sending his soul to Earth, leaving his divine body behind. If something happens to your body, you'll die. Mu brushed off the concern like lint off his robe. Who dare touch me? Before his assistant could argue more, it was already done. Now we see a completely different person. Someone who had just defeated the Demon Lord after a brutal final boss fight. Liho had always been painfully jealous of the protagonist in video games. Those guys with flashy swords, insane powers, and entire harems of girls drooling over them. Meanwhile, his real life looked like the loading screen, empty and slow. As the credits rolled, he sighed and let go of his phone, literally. It slipped from his trembling hands and crashed to the ground, shattering. Then we see why. Li Ho was standing on the edge of a three-story building. Broken, bruised, and done with the world, he whispered one last bitter goodbye and jumped. As he fell, he screamed through tears, "If there's a God out there, now's your chance! Send me to another world!" Before he could finish the sentence, he hit the ground. Blood splattered, skull cracked, game over. But not quite. His hands twitched. His chest heaved. He was breathing. God Mu's soul had entered his body right before impact. Mu, now inside a mangled human form, was overwhelmed by the pain, the kind of pain no immortal had ever felt. It was raw, horrifying, and somehow exciting. Meanwhile, Li's soul had been transported to the divine realm, face to face with a massive, very confused dragon. Both were equally shocked. One saw a human, the other saw a dragon. Classic sitcom setup. Let's rewind 10 seconds. God Mu had smirked, touched mini-Earth, ignored all warnings, and swapped souls. But he forgot one detail: gravity. By the time he took control of Li's body, he was already halfway to becoming a pancake. Too late. The impact was brutal. Bones shattered, blood sprayed, internal organs played musical chairs, and for the first time in 3 million years, Mu felt pain that brought tears to his eyes. But here's the twist. After dying for a second, Mu used his deep understanding of the human body to manually restart his heart. Yeah, like pressing Control-Alt-Delete on himself. He forced blood to flow. He repaired organs. He literally brought himself back through sheer will and technique. Slowly, painfully, he stood. Even with the weak body, Mu was excited. He hadn't felt this thrill in millennia. And so, the god of Earth began his new life. As a 17-year-old loser with a broken phone, a broken body, and a broken life. But something told him this was going to be fun. The police discovered the bloodstains and shattered glass at the scene. They began searching for the body and eventually came upon the spot where Li Ho had crashed to the ground. The area was quickly roped off. No one was allowed in as the investigation got underway. Meanwhile, Mu casually strolled back to the crash site, but not to check on the investigation. He had a very different reason. The 3-story building near the scene happened to be Li's school, and Mu, in his brilliant logic, decided it made perfect sense to continue living Li's daily routine. He walked into the school, casually scanning the halls until he found Li's classroom. Too excited for his own good, he slid open the rail door with way too much enthusiasm. The door rebounded and smacked him square in the face. God Mu, divine, immortal, ancient, momentarily stunned by a door. His moment of triumph was crushed by aluminum. Muttering to himself, he stepped inside. One of Li's classmates looked up, annoyed by the noise. "Idiot Li Ho, keep it down," the boy snapped, clearly recognizing him as the usual nerd. Mu forgot about the pain in his nose instantly. That voice, that face, it triggered a memory. This was the bully, the one who made Li's life hell. Mu calmly walked up and stood right in front of him. A bit too close. The bully raised an eyebrow, unsettled by the proximity. But what truly disturbed him was the smile on Mu's face. It wasn't Li's awkward, nerdy grin. No. It was something else. Dark, unnerving. Still unaware that this wasn't the same Li Ho, the bully scoffed. "What, you forget your glasses again? Or just too blind and stupid to act normal?" Then came the punch. Out of nowhere, the bully swung his fist and cracked it across Mu's face. Blood splattered from Mu's nose and lips, dripping to the floor. The bully laughed. "What happened to your glasses? Did you sell them for snacks? Or just lose them like the dumbass you are?" Mu stood still, expression unchanged. Blood running down his chin, not a single flinch. He was waiting. God Mu had a principle. One unshakable rule when it came to combat. A true fight only begins when both parties have shown their intent to fight. And for Mu, the signal was simple. He'd always take the first hit. And now, he had it. A wicked grin stretched across his face, that familiar surge of joy, the divine itch for battle. He finally felt alive. Mu's punch was sudden, interrupting the bully mid-taunt. The boy was hit squarely in the face, shocked and stumbling. But as Mu drew his hand back, pain shot through his arm. His muscles screamed. This body, it wasn't his. It was weak, breakable. He'd forgotten that for a second. The teacher stormed in, furious. "Stop fighting, now!" But the class was already watching. Phones out, videos rolling. The nerd had just punched the bully back. Red-faced and humiliated, the bully snapped. He charged at Mu, fists flailing. Mu blocked most of it. Kind of. He winced, thinking, if this body wasn't so damn weak, this would have been over already. Briefly, he considered using divine powers. Nothing. Not even a spark. That moment of confusion left him open. Another punch to the face. Not as hard, but it stung. The bully wasn't backing down until he made Lee regret standing up to him. Mu, for once, was in a bind. No power, no strength. Just one option left. He lowered his head and aimed. The punch landed right on Mu's skull. Crunch. The bully screamed in agony, stumbling back as the bones in his hand fractured. Mu, unfazed, smirked. "Nice move, me." He didn't stop. While the guy was still recoiling, Mu darted in, grabbed his arm, and slammed his head into the guy's gut. Or maybe somewhere a bit lower. The boy gasped, eyes wide, collapsing slightly from the pain. Then came the finisher. Mu raised his head and headbutted the bully's jaw, hard. The boy's knees buckled, eyes rolled. He collapsed in front of Mu, utterly defeated. The entire class stared in stunned silence, phones still recording. This wasn't a fight. This was an exorcism. Mu stood tall, breathing heavily. For the first time in thousands of years, he'd been in a real brawl. No magic, no divine weapon, just fists, blood, and pain. And it felt amazing. But the adrenaline wore off, and the pain came rushing in. His face throbbed. His mouth tasted like rusted coins. Still, he was smiling. He looked down at the unconscious boy. Something about it didn't feel over, so, naturally, he sat down beside the boy, leaned in close, and bit his ear. Yes, bit his ear. Chomp. Blood splattered, and Mu tore off a piece, then spat it onto the floor like he was done with a bad steak. The class gasped. A few students screamed. This wasn't just a fight. This was insanity. Mu wiped the blood from his lips, still glaring at the boy's lifeless form. That's what they were called. Mu's playthings. A badge of honor only granted to worthy opponents. Ironic, considering it was basically a violent version of a participation trophy. The story spread like wildfire. That second-year bully got beaten up and had his ear bitten off. Emergency medical services had to be called. The guy was in such bad shape, they didn't even try to hide it. Mu, like everyone else, watched as the boy was wheeled into the ambulance. He even waved. "Hope we fight again, buddy." A teacher stormed over, absolutely livid. "You, come with me, now!" Mu followed him into the staff room. Once inside, the teacher exploded. "Have you lost your damn mind? Why would you do something so crazy to your classmate?" He raised a binder to hit Mu, but stopped mid-swing. Why? Because Mu was blushing, eyes gleaming, like he was excited at the idea of fighting again. The teacher froze. He'd seen what Mu did to the other kid. He wasn't going to risk becoming the next plaything. So instead, he sighed. "Bring your parents to school tomorrow." Mu was genuinely confused. He'd been ready to retaliate, but without a strike, there was no battle to be had. Dismissed early, he left the school and began walking home. On the way, his thoughts wandered. Most gods know their realms in and out. They see all, know all. Not Mu. He had no idea what he was supposed to do. What the teacher meant by leave earlier. Did that mean return to his divine post, or just walk home? Nothing made sense.
But Mu